that's actually when great things happen.
Hi, and welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast, presented by Hippo Direct. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur or innovator every single Wednesday morning who's unleashing creativity. I'm your host, Max Brandstetter, digital marketing dude at Hippo Direct, and you can ask me any digital marketing or podcasting questions at max@hippodirect.com. This is episode number 32, and today we have the one and only Tracey Brown. She's the first CEO of the American Diabetes Association to actually have the disease, and you'll hear all about her success there and what has led to her achievements throughout her career at Procter & Gamble, Sam's Club, ExxonMobil, marketing agencies, and more. Huge thanks to her star teammate Sabrina for setting up the interview in person in New York City. It's the Type 2 CEO. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Tracey Brown, the incredible Tracey Brown, the first CEO of the American Diabetes Association to have the disease, and just an incredible leader. It goes back to my internship days at RAP down in Texas, where you were the managing director. How the heck are you doing today, Tracey?
So first, Max, it is awesome to be here with you and see you again after all of these years where you were just a youngster, still in college, but doing great things for us at RAP.
Oh, thank you. I'm so old now. It's just really hit me hard. But
yeah, it looks like we both have kind of gone full circle in differences. So I am doing fantastic now. I've had a long and robust career, nearly 30 years that I put into the for-profit space. And back in June of 2018, decided to take my time, my talent, and my treasures and apply them to the not-for-profit space, particularly the American Diabetes Association. I've been living with diabetes for 15 years as someone with type 2, and just a desire to have my purpose in this world line up with my passion and in a position to give back.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, it's clearly, something that's very close to home for you and something that I'm sure is very easy for you to be passionate about. So it's, you mentioned that we connected in the past about, well, I guess almost 6 years ago at this point, which is pretty crazy. But I've been keeping up with you and how you've progressed through your career, and you're always doing amazing things. So this is still very surreal. But for anybody that isn't too familiar yet, can you give a brief rundown of back to when you were in college and you were starting out, sort of how you got started with your professional career and some of the biggest milestones that's led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'm, as you probably can imagine and probably do remember, Max, I'm pretty type A, I'm pretty competitive.
Maybe a little.
Yeah,
No.
So I've always had in my mind that I wanted to be a leader. And so that desire fueled every choice almost in my life. So I chose to go into chemical engineering because that's all about problem solving, right? And all of the great leaders that I knew also were great problem solvers. So I said, hey, so if I have that as my base, that'll give me a good jumping off point. So from studying at the University of Delaware and graduating as a chemical engineer, I went straight to go work for Procter & Gamble. And
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
They're a little,
exactly
maybe a little
right.
common company.
That's exactly right. And I worked in their R&D area developing dishwashing liquids. I had a great mentor there who said, man, you're really great on the lab bench, but you also always have these great business ideas. And so from there, he said, have you ever thought about brand management? I said, no, I've never thought about brand management. So go shadow one of the Tide brand managers. Well, it only took me a second to understand that they were basically the baller, the shot caller. They were making all of the decisions, running the P&L, deciding on advertising, deciding on logistics and transportation, R&D, product development. So I went back to my mentor and I said, yes, sign me up for that. That's definitely a mini CEO. I'm in.
Yeah.
So I said, what do I have to do that? And he's like, oh, well, probably should have told you. to be taken seriously at Procter & Gamble, you really need your MBA.
Yeah.
But no problem. Just take a leave of absence, go get your MBA, and then when you come back, we have a job for you.
Yeah, and that's just like a minor take a few seconds, take some classes, come back. That's crazy. Like, not only, I mean, it's amazing that they gave you the opportunity to shadow a brand manager in that company. Brand management is so important to any company, especially Procter & Gamble. But Tide, I mean, that is one of their giant brands. That's like
number one.
First thing that comes to mind. And oh my God, my old company where I used to work, we were competitors with them, and let's just say Tide outspent us a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. I mean, I will tell you this, Max. I look at my career in sections, and Procter & Gamble still is I believe, one of the best organizations in terms of developing leaders.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're living proof. I mean,
I gained a lot of my early leadership shaping and molding to the leaders and the training that I actually had at Procter & Gamble. So they're really, really outstanding at it.
Yeah. So what did you do after P&G?
I went and got my MBA because I wanted to be the brand manager, and I went to Columbia Business School right here in New York
right
City.
next door.
That's exactly
right. I have
right.
an interview there after. I'm just kidding. Might as well.
Yeah. So when I was at Columbia, I developed a passion for international business. So I graduated with concentrations in actually finance and marketing, but fueled by a love of international business. And so while I had in my mind that I was going to go back to Procter & Gamble, I graduated in the early 1990s. And at that time, having an engineering degree combined with your MBA was a very hot combination, and jobs were aplenty.
Yeah, which it probably still is. Like, that's a very unique and talented skill set there.
So I had a lot of job opportunities, and I ended up not going back to Procter, but instead going to work for Exxon. They're the Fortune 1 company at the time, and I specifically went to go work in their international division and an accelerated general management program. They had decided that they hadn't done a really great job of succession planning, and they had a bunch of leaders and executives that were near retirement, and they discovered they didn't have a pipeline. They also, for their company, discovered that having your chemical engineer with your MBA was kind of like the secret sauce for their leaders. And so they hired 2 chemical engineers with their MBAs a year into this accelerated management program. I happen to be one of them. So that section of my career, if Procter & Gamble was about leadership, Exxon, Company International, I mean, first of all, just understanding how to navigate a Fortune 1 company is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I learned there the politics of business. And I know people don't really like to talk about politics, but they exist, and they're real. Especially
in the giant companies that you've experienced. Yeah.
And I also learned crisis management. So I was there at the time of the Valdez. And just to see that company manage through what is one of the biggest disasters still of all time was a tremendously enriching experience. To see the level of humility, the level of pressure, the fast acting decisions that had to be made, and just to understand that the public, because what you saw from that accident, you really couldn't understand the soul of the organization, but just to see how the leaders performed there was something that was kind of emblazoned in my mind that I've carried with me in terms of how I deal with crisis as a leader and what that means.
Right. So what tips do you have for anybody that experiences an unfortunate crisis?
So first and foremost, I think you have to lead with empathy and lead with your heart. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the person who is experiencing said crisis. That's point 1. Point 2, it's easier said than done, but you actually cannot allow your emotions to overrun smart thinking. So you have to balance head and heart. And the third thing I think I've learned is the best thing that you can do is just always do the next best thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wow. So how long after your experience with Exxon did you cross over to the agency world? Because that's another major change.
Yeah. So from Exxon, not only did I get crisis management and how to navigate big business, I also started leveraging my data and analytics chops. And so I was recruited from Exxon to go work for American Express, whom, again, this section of this part of my career, I happen to believe is probably one of the best service organizations around, and still one of the organizations that I think gets right how to leverage data to create connection and loyalty. And so I was recruited there to help them leverage their data because they're a closed loop organization, meaning they know the data on the person who's the card holder and where they're shopping, and they know from the places where they're shopping what they're buying. And that's very unique. Unlike Visa or MasterCard or any of these other charge cards, American Express has the closed loop. So how do you use that to drive loyalty, to drive behavior, to drive a lot of things? And so I was at American Express doing that for a while, and then that's what got me into more of the consulting and inching my way to advertising. So
yeah, which you have to inch your way there.
You have to inch your way there, right? You just go full on. But what I will say is, I'm not sure if you're familiar, Max, with an organization called Peppers and Rogers.
I'm not,
Don
but
Peppers
I feel like I'm about to be.
And Martha Rogers. So remember that this was in the 90s. They created an organization that was all about one-to-one marketing. So this is before, like now you say one-to-one marketing, yeah, of course. But this was in the 90s before anybody was talking about marketing to a person of one and what that actually meant and how you use data to do that and how you need to change your organization to do that.
That's such a different world. It's crazy thinking back to that.
I went there and I became a student of one-to-one marketing, and that this became my thing. And how do you help companies create connection with a person to drive your brand, to drive sales, to drive loyalty, to drive retention, all of those things. That experience is ultimately what led to agency. So from working with many clients in the one-to-one space, I ultimately ended up going to work at an agency, a data-driven marketing agency. So where they use data and analytics to drive marketing behaviors. Again, this was the early 2000s, where again, using data wasn't as prevalent as it is now. And so it was kind of a new thing. We worked with, one of my first clients there was Best Buy, and how you leverage customer data with the blue shirts and their loyalty program.
Right, which is why I'm wearing a blue shirt right now, by the way.
There you go. So you could be working at Best Buy.
I knew. See, I had the foresight. I knew it was coming.
There you go. So that is how I got into the agency. And, that exposed me to all kinds of diverse clients, big, small, across different industries. It was quite fascinating and allowed me to tap into the creative side of my brain. So I'm this weird right brain, left brain. I could do the data and analytics, but then I'm creative as well. And so,
which is super important, especially for a leader of an organization.
Well, before it was called weird, right? People would be like, you're weird. But now it's
I experienced the same thing, yeah. I'm loving the way that you're sharing these different steps of your career, because you're articulating very well the main takeaway from each one. And it's almost like you're describing how you're shaping this leader and kind of all the aspects of your leadership capabilities through each of your experiences. So I'm just blown away by that. And our paths crossed at RAP, the agency down in Texas. And you were speaking to clients earlier. Chili's is very close to my heart because that was the client that the interns had the project on.
It was your best internship ever, right?
It was.
Like, okay.
It was fantastic. Yeah, literally there was a group of, I think it was 9 of us, and we were challenged with eating at all these restaurants throughout the summer and getting, taking note, and not just eating. Like we did eat a lot. I think everyone gained weight that summer, but we in a good way. No, but we took notes on the customer experience and the customer all the touch points at each of these different restaurants, and then you give insights for how to appeal to millennials. But that project was incredibly cool. And another thing I want to mention about Wrap, that's when we first met, and when I first experienced sort of your energy and your leadership style. And I still remember to this day, every single time we had a company, an agency-wide meeting, you were speaking to us, you'd start off with, tons of energy and go, "You guys excited to work at the best agency in the world today?"
That's right.
There we go. So it's infectious. It's incredible. I love that part of your personality. It's that you really just have a knack for inspiring people. Before we get to other parts of your career, if you could simplify it to one sentence, why are you successful?
I believe that God has created every single person on this earth for a divine reason. Everyone has a purpose for being. And if you can get really clear on your purpose and why you're here uniquely, like there's some uniqueness that only Max has and only Max can do, and some uniqueness that only I have and only I can do. If you can get very clear on your purpose and then get into an alignment with what God wants you to do, that's actually when great things happen. So I try to always stay in alignment with what God wants me to do, because that's when you fulfill your divine reason for being.
And when did you know that you had this leadership potential and that, hey, you know what? I'm not half bad at this.
Yeah, this is an evolution. So here's the deal, Max. I was told at a very young age, like, you're just a natural born leader, right? Like, as a youngster. I was always in athletics and student government and all of these things. Captain, president, this, that, and the other, right? Everyone's like,
your resume must have been pretty solid then.
It was pretty good. You're a natural born leader, but there is a debate on, are leaders born or made? I actually don't believe leaders are born. I think they are made, but I think you're born with tendencies. For me, I had been self-directed, i.e. not in alignment. I decided what I wanted to do, what I thought was best for me. And it always seemed to work out quite well, right? I would go from one position to a higher level position to a bigger company to another, right? All of these rich experiences until I became the CEO. And I was like, well, nothing, I don't know what I was expecting to happen, but I was expecting something to happen. And nothing, like,
something magical.
Right, something magical. And nothing magical really happened. And it was at that point where I was like, there has to be more. I know I'm good at this because I just directed my whole career to reach a thing. Like, I was, again, I'm very type A. I'm very competitive. I said, I want to get from A to B to C to D.
Right.
I did all of that and realized that I felt like there had to be more. And that's when I actually spent time saying, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What's my reason for being? There has to be more. And that's when I actually started to allow myself to always stay in alignment with what God was telling me to do.
All right. So let's get to some other parts of your career then. As far as Sam's Club, so you had a couple very significant and impressive positions at Sam's Club. And
Love Sam's
Chief
Club.
Sam's
I hope people are buying memberships.
There we go.
There we go.
I don't, but it's a little different in the city.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so that's my excuse.
Yeah.
But no, I used to, all the time growing up, I used to go there with my mom, and Sam's is close to my heart as well. So, anyway, so you were chief member officer. You were also senior vice president and chief experience officer. What did you take from those roles?
So at this juncture in my career, Max, I follow leaders and I go to organizations that I respect and where I feel like I can make a difference. So with Sam's Club, the primary reason I went was the CEO of Sam's Club at the time was Rosalind Brewer, who is just an unbelievable person, a phenomenal mother, and just an outstanding business leader. She asked me to join and help turn around Sam's Club membership. membership had been declining.
Right. Well, it would have been declining because I wasn't a member because I was in New York, right?
Yeah, clearly. Clearly. You want maybe a few million more?
Yeah.
So that was a big meaty problem right in my strike zone, right? It's about using data and analytics to drive behavior. It's about creating loyalty through experience. It's about all of those things. Working for the number one retailer in the world. Yeah. So I was like, I'm up for that. And so that's what I did. I went to join her, and that's how I ended up taking the role of the chief member officer. Having responsibility for membership, marketing, data and analytics, digital, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And
it was fantastic. We were able to turn membership around from declining to growing, from the success that I had in that experience working with a wonderful team. I was then asked to take the same creative and disruptive approach from marketing and membership into where the rubber meets the road for Sam's Club is in the club. Right. That is the moment of truth.
Which, when you said that, 50 Cent song was in my head, but I couldn't resist. Anyway.
In the club. Yeah. So that's what led to the chief experience officer. It really is, how do you use data and analytics at the moment of truth with the employees and the associates and their connection with the members who are shopping and having an experience in that club to drive loyalty.
Can you imagine getting a 100% open rate on your next marketing message? Well, you can with extra large postcards that are impossible to ignore. Hippo Direct can help you find the perfect list of proven direct mail responders. We can even help lay out and design the postcard for you. Check us out at hippodirect.com.
Wow. All right. So we've already, I don't know if you knew that you had to bring your resume or CV for this interview, but we've hit all of the major touch points, a lot of the major touch points, but obviously would love to talk about the American Diabetes Association. So this kind of, takes us full circle again. You mentioned at the start sort of reasoning for crossing over into nonprofit and why this is obviously very close to your heart. You're public about the fact that you're the first Type 2 CEO. Shout out your social media handles. What's the biggest part of your day-to-day role right now? What's your mission here?
Our mission is it's a simple statement, Max, but incredibly complex. Okay. What we are doing is really trying to help all people who are living with diabetes while we fight for a cure. And when we say help, we really want to help people who are living with diabetes thrive. Here's the deal, Max. Diabetes is actually one of the biggest health epidemics of our time, with over 30 million Americans living with the disease, with 84 million people living with prediabetes, and 90% of them don't know it, with 228 people dying per day from diabetes and its complications. Yet, the majority of the people, A, don't know that, B, don't take this seriously, and C, there's no sense of urgency around the fact that this is an epidemic that is growing at alarming rates. 1 out of 2 people, that means between you and I, one of us is either living with prediabetes or diabetes, and we know that out of us, it's me, but that's just how vast this disease is.
That's unbelievable. Wow. What's a typical week look like for you? I mean, Sabrina, earlier we were talking about how much you guys are traveling. What are you doing to help the cause and to build more awareness of this?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Max, if I think about my job as the CEO, there are multiple aspects of this. So the ADA, while that was a simple mission statement, we are fighting to find a cure, which includes research and R&D. We have a large portion of what we do when we talk about helping people thrive and we talk about helping people understand how to manage with prediabetes. That's a lot of healthcare and education. And then we have a whole piece around just supporting people. There is so much discrimination that happens against people living with diabetes that you may or may not know that it starts in schools. Many children who are living with diabetes and in school are not allowed to take their insulin shots in class. They have to excuse themselves. They, in many cases, cannot play on sports teams or go on field trips. That is not right and not fair, and that is discriminatory. We just had a large win with truck drivers, commercial truck drivers, being able to drive while living with diabetes. So we have a large advocacy piece of what we do, which is, bringing voice to the people. So those are the three main areas that I try to balance. So there's the internal. We have to keep our organization running as a healthy business. We have to continue to raise voice and basically give a mouthpiece to people. We need to be out in the communities, which is why we travel so much, because you actually have to meet people where they are.
Right.
And we are really focusing on waking up the world to this seriousness of this disease. And then we have the healthcare professionals, the doctors, the nurses, the diabetes educators, the healthcare practitioners. These groups of folks are so instrumental in the care and the diagnoses of people living with prediabetes and diabetes. And then the final is the researchers and the scientists, and meeting and being with them. We're going to be with some of those scientists tomorrow for one of our innovative programs that we call Pathways, where we fund young, bright, innovative, creative minds to take new and different approaches on how to find a cure.
Wow. And so, you just mentioned like what feels like 700 different parties that you're dealing with all the time. How do you do that? How do you maintain and foster those relationships with so many different groups of people?
I will go on record of saying that I have a wonderful team, right? None of this would be possible without a strong team, and I've not met a more dedicated, passionate group of people, I don't think, ever. This is one of the things about working for a nonprofit. The people who are working in a nonprofit are there because of the cause. That's the only reason that they're there. And so that level of commitment and passion and having a team that believes in what we're doing is how we're able to reach so many people and do such diverse activities.
Yeah, teamwork. And it from the athlete days, how important teamwork is, and it's really cool how that translates to the leadership for nonprofits as well.
Teamwork makes the dream work, Max.
Exactly. I want to discuss inspiration and creativity for a little bit. It's always fascinating to hear how leaders stay creative. So, first question: what do you do to stay creative, whether it's at work or something outside of work?
I think there are a couple of things. You may or may not remember this from the rap days, but I love improv.
I remember you.
Okay, so improv theater is actually a way to stay sharp with your creativity, and it actually drives innovation. And I think it has great applicability to business today, because to solve some of the biggest business challenges in the world, you need this creativity. So improv, I stay sharp with improv. I also say I have a beautiful 15-year-old daughter, and just trying to, stay cool. That keeps me.
Stay cool. That's one way to put it.
Listen, she keeps me on my toes, just in terms of what is actually happening in pop culture.
Right.
If you can really understand what is happening culturally, I believe that gives you an advantage in terms of creative solutions and innovative solutions. So that's one way. And then the last way is I am a musician, which you might remember this from the rap days. I'm a drummer. And so
you've been drumming this whole interview. I'm just kidding.
I find that music allows me to tap into a different kind of creative energy.
That's incredible. And do you still do you go to improv groups, or is that something you do just as part of exercises with your company?
I haven't been to an improv stand-up show in quite some time, but we did just bring improv into the ADA.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. So,
well, you're in New York. There's, a few comedy theaters, so there might be opportunity for that. But let's pivot to a quick segment called the Wild Business Shout-Out of the Week.
The Wild Business Shout-Out of the Week!
Okay.
This is where we talk about a brand or a company that's marketing in effective ways that stuck out to us. And earlier we were chatting, you mentioned a brand that maybe a few people have heard of called Nike. What is it you like so much about Nike?
I love the fact that they're a purpose-driven brand and they are very human-centric. They keep their eye on their customer always. If you think about how the brand was formed, it was from runners, track, athletes, waffle shoes, right? Like all that whole thing was designed for the runner. Mm-hmm. They evolved that very eyes on the athlete, that runner, to how do you actually connect in a meaningful way with all people with that same emotion and drive that high performance athletes have. And the campaign of Just Do It, man, that speaks to everybody, but that's at the core in the DNA of who they are as a brand. They always stay brand right. They always stay on who they are, how they're designing their products, and they always find a way to emotionally connect with people, and they take a stance. I have a lot of respect for brands that just take a stance, and they do.
Yeah, I mean, there's been multiple commercials that they've broadcast like crazy over the past couple of years that they've definitely taken a stance. And in general, I feel like more people than not respond positively to it. I know, after the Kaepernick ad, I think their sales, it was like an incredible spike from it. But it all goes back to that purpose, as you were speaking of. So they're an incredible company, and they've evolved so much over the years. And to the point that I've literally heard rumors of kids being recruited for college basketball schools, and like, if a school's Adidas versus if a school's Nike, like that can really impact their decision. Yeah. So that's a really good example. So we only got a little bit of time left. I want to wrap up with rapid fire Q&A.
Okay, let's do it.
You ready for it? All right.
Let's do it.
You ready? All right. Let's get wild, as they say. In sports, what is your favorite position that you ever played? Could be in any sport.
Shooting guard.
There you go. 2, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Complaining. People complaining.
Oh, I hate that. No, I'm just kidding. You tee me up for that one. What is your favorite song to drum to?
Oh, it would have to be a Phil Collins song. Maybe all. I don't have all Phil Collins songs. He's just awesome. Just right, an awesome musician, but an awesome drummer. He
does have the legend. Oh yeah, and the Hangover movie kind of with Tyson did the whole exactly right. Brought that to highlight. But I think you'll like the our theme music. You'll like the bongos in that too. Fantastic. So I think that's probably be a good contender. What is your you travel a lot for work, and I'm not sure how much you do outside of work, but you're kind of always in so many different places. What's your favorite city? We'll say other than New York and other than DC.
Actually, it would be outside of this country. We go to Atlantis in the Bahamas quite a bit. We, in fact, have been going there for nearly 30 years. It's just a great place that I love to go and just disconnect and get yourself kind of re-centered and feed and water yourself. So that's a place we go a lot together as a family. But my husband and I started going there originally when we were dating. So
really,
it has a very fun.
Wow. So it goes back.
Yes.
That's
and
really
my husband
cool.
and I have been together for 33 years. So we've been
there you go. Well, congrats on that. That's awesome. Do you, when you're there, have you ever done that famous slide that goes through the Shark Tank and all that?
That's my daughter's favorite.
Really?
Oh my God, yeah.
That's cool. I've been there. We didn't stay there, but I've been stopped there for a cruise, and so got to sort of experience it, but didn't get to experience that slide. But I know that thing is crazy. If anybody hasn't seen it, make sure to look it up or go experience it yourself.
It's very crazy.
It's wild. Okay, and then very challenging question. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
What's your favorite season of the year?
Summer.
There we go. All right, you nailed it. All right. Well, summer can't come soon enough. But
Exactly.
But thank you so much, Tracey. This has been amazing. It's been so cool connecting again, and I'm still, we'll always be blown away by your story and success, and look forward to staying in touch. But before we sign off here, where's the best place for people to connect with you, and also what can people do to help out the American Diabetes Association?
So what I would say is to connect with me, go to social channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Type 2 CEO, at TYPE, the number 2 CEO. That's how you reach me. And then as it relates to diabetes, what I would just ask is if everyone could help us awaken the world and drive awareness. I would like everyone to know your numbers. I would want you to go we have a test online called the RISK test, RISK. You can go to diabetes.org/risk test and just take that test. It'll only take you a couple of minutes so that you'll at least know if you're at risk for prediabetes or diabetes. The other thing that I would say is get tested, know your numbers. The next time you're at your doctor's office or a clinic, or you can even go Walmart Wellness Days, get yourself tested, get your blood sugars tested to really understand. Like I said, 90% of the people don't even know that they're living with prediabetes. That's a big deal. And then the last, get involved. We have all kinds of community events, particularly helping us fundraise, walks, rides, different events. Get involved in the community to help us awaken the world on the seriousness of this disease.
All right. You heard Tracey, everyone. Last thing here, just to wrap it up, stage is yours. Any final thoughts you want? It could be whatever, a quote, a line, anything you want to end on.
Actually, I just want to end on Max, I think you're awesome. I'm so proud to see how you have evolved and what you're doing now, from the days of an intern working on the Chili's brand with us to
eating burgers.
What you're doing now with your family business. I think that's awesome. And I just want to encourage you to keep pushing and unleash all the leadership potential in you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracey. That means a ton. I don't have any tattoos, but if I did, they would be Tracey's kind words. Thank you so much, Tracey and Sabrina. That was incredible. Thank you, Wild listeners, for tuning into another episode. If you'd like to make the most of this podcast, here's your 5-point plan. Pick and choose whatever sticks out to you. Number 1, subscribe to this podcast and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite app. Number 2, check out the Hippo Direct blog. It's hippodirect.com/blog, and we have some incredible behind-the-scenes content there, including show notes and the favorite books of all our podcast guests. Number 3, get your creative juices flowing with the Hippo Digest, your weekly recap of creative marketing. You can sign up at hippodirect.com/newsletter. Number 4, connect with us on social media at the handle Hippo Direct for all your business growth and Hippo tips. And numero 5, connect with me at Max Brandstetter on your favorite social media platform. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!